August can be a challenging month, but if you know what to throw, you'll have some of the best fishing of the whole year. I love fishing during the warm months because of how active the fish are and how aggressive they are, and you can catch them on many different presentations. Whenever it comes to selecting lures to use in August, it is important to think about what the bass are feeding on your local body of water. During the warm months, bass will be a mix of up shallow or relating to structure in deeper water. It was difficult to select just 5 lures to talk about today, but these 5 lures are my confident baits to use in August or anytime in the summer. These lures will work in many situations throughout the whole country and catch some giants in August. Let me know down below if you agree or disagree with my top 5 baits to use in August in the comment section down below. Also, if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. We are on the way to 5K by the end of the year, and I'd love to have you join the community. At the time of recording this video, we are at 2.55K, and I just wanted to say thank you so much to every one of you that supports the channel. It really does mean a lot to me, and I couldn't do it without you guys. But anyways, let's get into the video. The first lure I want to talk about today is the Shaky Head. The Shaky Head is a productive lure to use this time of year, especially whenever the bite gets tough, especially on those hot summer days in August. The Shaky Head shines whenever you're fishing around different types of cover and can trigger some big bites. The Shaky Head is weedless, so you are able to fish it pretty much anywhere, and the Shaky Head catches some giant fish. I love to throw the Shaky Head around heavy cover, especially whenever I'm fishing in the river targeting smallmouth. I am able to get the Shaky Head in places most other lures will get hung up at and catch some huge bass. Whenever the bite gets tough, one of the first lures I reach for is the Shaky Head. The Shaky Head is very versatile and can be fished many different ways. There's 2 main styles of shaky heads that people use. The first shaky head design is a ball head, which gives the bait a unique action by rocking back and forth when retrieved. The second shaky head design is a stand-up head, which gives the shaky head a completely different action compared to if using a ball head. The stand-up jig head is used around rocks mainly and does well here in western North Carolina. The ball head jig head gives the lure a unique action working back and forth on the bottom. Most people will use a finesse worm when choosing what soft plastic to use. Most people will throw a shaky head on a spinning rod with light line also. Personally, I like to use 8-pound test because I fish clear water, but it truly comes down to personal preference and how clear the water you're fishing is. The shaky head truly shines this time of year and can produce some huge bites, especially if you're throwing it in the right spot. Make sure you have this lure tied on whenever you go out this month. The second lure I'm going to talk about today is the Texas Rig. The Texas Rig is a good choice this time of year because of how many different presentations you can do with this rig, depending on if you peg your weight, the plastic you use for the trailer, and the weight you select. Personally, this time of year I like to use creature style soft plastics and ribbon tail worms. However, make sure you experiment with the Texas Rig to figure out what to imitate and what works best for you in your local body of water. For example, if you have thick grass or pads up shallow, you could use a 1 ounce weight and a creature style bait to target the bass that will be holding under the grass or lily pads. Here in western North Carolina, we fish around a lot of rocks and timber, so I can get away with a much lighter weight. The Texas Rig can be an effective lure, especially when going to a new body of water. The Texas Rig shines all year, but I love throwing it during the summertime and during August. The Texas Rig is one of my confidence baits and catches some giant bass. If you want to target some larger bass, I would suggest throwing a larger profile when fishing the Texas Rig. This time of year, I like to throw either a 10-inch or a 12-inch ribbon tail worm to target larger bass. However, most of the time I will fish a smaller profile, especially whenever the temperature is high, like it has been here recently. Bass will often relate to structure, so throwing a weedless lure like the Texas Rig works very well. This time of year, bass love to sit under docks whenever it's hot outside. The Texas Rig is a good choice to use with fishing docks because it won't get snagged compared to other lures. Many people love to use the Texas Rig because of how well it comes through cover due to it exposing the hook. Personally, I like to peg the weight on my Texas Rig so it does not get hung up as much, but it totally depends on where you're at in the country and around what type of structure you are fishing around. No matter which way you go about it, pegging the weight or not pegging the weight will change the action of your Texas Rig, and some days the bass will want it pegged, or other days they will not want it pegged. So you're just going to have to experiment and see what works. The Texas rig does well in both shallow and deeper water and is a great lure to use in August whenever the temperatures are high. The Texas rig really shines when the bass are relating close to cover, and this is my favorite time of the year to throw it. Many anglers like using a weightless Texas rig, and this could trigger more strikes in areas with higher pressure due to the more natural action of the Texas rig moving throughout the water compared to if you had a weight in front of it. The Texas rig can be fished pretty much anywhere, no matter if the bass are shallow or relating to deeper water. The Texas rig will catch them. You can change up the retrieve too and fish the Texas rig with many different cadences. However, my favorite way is to work the Texas rig is by dragging it slowly across the bottom or bringing it through structure. You can get some nice sized bass doing this, and it's one of the most versatile lures on this list with how many different ways you can rig it and fish the Texas rig. If you are not throwing a Texas rig this time of year, you are missing out on one of the best lures to come through structure and one of the best lures to target big bass. The third lure I'm going to talk about today is the jig. The jig is probably one of my favorite lures to throw all year, and especially in August. A jig can produce some huge bites and is one of my confident baits to catch big bass. The bass are very lethargic during August, especially recently with how hot it has been here. Being able to fish the jig slowly is a good way to target bass that won't bite any other lure. This time of year, I like to throw two different styles of jigs. The first one I like to throw is a football jig. During this time of year, bass will relate to deeper water, and this is when the football jig shines. You can catch some good bass this time of year targeting ledges, deep points, and offshore structure that I could find on my fish finder. I was on a lake here in western North Carolina throwing a football jig trying to target deeper bass. Recently, the weather has been very hot, and the football jig was able to produce me a solid bite by being able to fish it slowly. Fishing a jig slowly this time of year can even trick the most lethargic bass to bite your jig. The second style jig I like is a punching jig. I have recently got into punching jigs over the past year, and I really regret not getting into them sooner. Punching jigs shine around thick vegetation and can pull some massive bass out of it if you know what you're doing. A jig is a very versatile lure and can be fished in many different scenarios depending on where you're fishing at in the country. Don't think the jig can only be used to deeper water. It works well in shallow water too. It all really depends on what type of structure you are fishing around. There's many different types of jigs and trailers to use and can become overwhelming if you don't know what to pick. I plan on doing a more in-depth video talking about jigs in the future. Make sure you comment down below and let me know you want to see a video talking more in depth about jigs. The jig can be fished in many different scenarios around rocks, vegetation, and different types of structure depending on what style jig head you are using. The drawing power of a larger profile jig can result in some huge bites during August and is one of my favorite ways to get a big bite this time of year. The fourth lure I want to talk about today is the drop shot. Whenever the bite gets tough on these blistering hot summer days in August, I will pick up a drop shot more times than not. There's just something about fishing a drop shot this time of year that the bass just cannot resist, especially whenever the temperature is high. The two most important things to consider when you're fishing a drop shot is the plastic you are using and what type of hook you are using. Whenever choosing what plastic you use, it is important to consider the type of forage and the body of water you are targeting. I like to match the hatch so I can get more bites while I'm out on the water. Whenever it comes to selecting a hook and how you're going to rig it, it is important to consider what type of structure you're going to be fishing around. If you're going to be fishing around a lot of wood, for example, you might want to Texas rig your soft plastic. Most of the time, I personally like to nose hook mine with a smaller size hook because it gives the soft plastic a lot of action whenever you move your rod tip. The drop shot shines in many different types of condition and just straight up catches big bass. Make sure whenever you're fishing during August that you have a drop shot tied on. You will not regret it. The fifth lure I'm going to talk about today is the Wacky Rig. The Wacky Rig is one of my favorite finesse techniques to throw this time of year because of its larger profile and how long it stays in the strike zone for. Whenever I am using a Wacky Rig, I am trying to imitate a bluegill because during the summer, every month, bluegills will go up and spawn every full moon. This is a quick and easy meal and can trigger some huge bass to bite. I especially love using a Wacky Rig when targeting largemouth, but also have success targeting spots and smallmouth with it. The Wacky Rig is a versatile rig because you could change up the presentation of it just by changing up the worm. Depending on what worm you decide to use can determine at what rate your Wacky Rig will fall throughout the water. For example, the Yum Dinger is one of the slowest sinking worms that you can use, while the Gary Yamamoto Cinco will sink more quickly through the water column. Depending on the mood of the bass for that day will determine what soft plastic worm you should use for that day. Sometimes they want a slower sinking worm, while other days they want a faster sinking worm. It's best to experiment and see what works best for you and your local body of water. It can be fished in many different scenarios and shines whenever targeting shallow bass. Whenever I was down on Lake Guntersville throwing a Wacky Rig, no one else at the boat ramp was able to catch anything for that day. The anglers I talked to at the boat ramp said they were mainly power fishing, throwing chatterbaits and lipless crankbaits. I thought not many people would fish the Wacky Rig on Guntersville compared to other style lures. This ended up paying off for me and I had a great day out on the water. Many people don't like to throw the Wacky Rig because they think they will not catch as big a bass. I am here to tell you that the Wacky Rig can catch some huge bass this time of year. Whenever I see shallow water, one of the first lures to pop in my mind is the Wacky Rig. Normally, I will trigger a reaction strike whenever I skip it under different types of structures, and the bass just cannot resist it. It is one of my favorite lures to skip and is by far one of the easiest lures to skip in my opinion. This time of year, I especially love to target docks with the Wacky Rig because during those hot summer days, bass will sit up under the dock and the Wacky Rig is an important tool to have in your arsenal to get up under that dock. If you do not have a Wacky Rig tied on this time of year, you are missing out on one of the best finesse bites for shallow bass. These are my top 5 lures to use in August, and these lures will help you catch more bass whenever you're fishing during these hot August days. It was hard to just select 5 lures for this month, but these lures will work in many conditions across the whole country. If you have any questions or comments, let me know down below. Also, let me know if you agree or disagree with my top 5 August lures, or if I missed your favorite lure to use this time of year. Some lures unfortunately didn't make the cut to this list, so let me know down below which ones you would throw over these. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button to help this video in the YouTube algorithm so more people can get recommended this video. If you are not subscribed and you made it this far in the video, I would love to have you join the community and it would mean the world to me. Like I said in the beginning of the video, we are on the way to 5K by the end of the year and it is a milestone I've had set since the beginning of the year. So if you enjoyed the content, make sure you subscribe. If you want to see how effective a Wacky Rig can be, make sure you check out this video right here.